Good evening. The February 27th, 2023 meeting of the West Springfield Zoning Board of Appeals is hereby called to order at 6 p.m. In accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, I must announce that anyone intending to tape the meeting must identify themselves to the clerk and provide his or her name and address for the record. We inform those present that any document that is to be considered or discussed must be made part of the record of the meeting, and an original or copy must be submitted to the committee before there will be any discussion regarding the document. Documents include photos, plans, drawings, computer printouts and simulations, video presentations, and the like, as well as letters and written materials. First order of business is acceptance of meeting minutes from January 23rd, 2023, and a special meeting from January 30th, 2023. Has everybody had an opportunity to review those minutes?
Yes.
A motion to accept?
Motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, our only public hearing this evening is at 6 p.m. It is Selco Partnerships doing business at Verizon Wireless, requesting a variance from Section 300-11.4A, Note 2, and Section 311.5C of the zoning ordinance, which require a wireless communication tower and mounting components to be set back a minimum of 550 feet from existing residential structures not on the subject parcel, and require a wireless communication tower to be set back from the property line a distance of at least 25% of the height of the tower. The applicant is proposing a 106-foot tall communication tower to be sited 103 feet from the nearest residence and 10 feet from the side and rear property lines. The location of the proposed wireless communication tower is adjacent to the water tower on Golden View Drive in a Residence A zoning district. Is there somebody here that will present to the board from Verizon? Just state your name and address for the record,
Sure.
please.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Ellen Fryman, attorney with Schatz, Schwartz & Fenton, 1441 Main Street, Springfield. I represent Verizon Wireless, and I'm here this evening with a number of consultants and representatives from Verizon who are prepared to answer any questions which are not in my realm. So thank you for hearing us this evening. We are here to request two variances to erect a lattice-style tower. This is a result of a RFP that was put out by the city, the town of West Springfield, to erect a tower to provide service for the Morgan Road area of the town. A lot of work went into trying to put up antennas on the top of the water tank, which takes up a big portion of the property. If you see, there's this is a site plan showing the parcel and the location of the water tank. And if anybody needs a copy of the application, we have extra copies with us. But so in trying to site the antennas, again, we looked, we even had a third-party engineer try to make accommodations to provide erection of the antennas on the water tank, but due to a whole host of reasons, structural and building code issues and a whole host of things, we determined it couldn't be done, and so we looked for another location on the site to locate the tower. So in looking at the site, you see it is pretty well taken up by the water tank. And then we looked at the northeast corner of the property, and that's T-Mobile has equipment there. They are located on the water tank. Then we looked at the area between the water tank and the western property line, and that's too narrow and has a downward slope. Then we looked at the southern edge of the property, and that's too close to a residential structure. And then lastly, the area between the water tank and the eastern property line, that's too narrow to accommodate the facility. So we, the best location was in the northwest corner, and that's where we're siting the tower, as you see on the site plan. So the variances are required because there's two requirements. One, that we be set back a minimum of 550 feet from a residential structure if we're not camouflaged. And so this is a lattice tower, it will not be camouflaged, so we do need the 550 feet, not the reduced 200 feet. And again, given the constraints of the site, we can only be 103 feet from the closest residence. And then the distance from the property line, which is 25% of the tower, which would be 26.5 feet, we are only 10 feet. So we need the variance for both the minimum from the residence and the minimum from the property line. So we know we have certain criteria to meet in order to be granted variances, and we've submitted a narrative explaining how we do satisfy those criteria, which are, difficult hurdles, but we feel that we are able to satisfy them. The first being related to the shape, topography, land or structure affecting this piece only, and this is a unique parcel in the town, and certainly has, based on the other use of the parcel, the challenge of fitting this in is, been difficult and results in us needing these variances. So, a little enforcement would create a hardship in that, even though the town has endorsed this by issuing the RFP, saying they recognize that service is needed in this area and have solicited carriers to put a tower there so that we can, the town does have adequate service. And also, we've already, negotiated and signed a lease with the town. They are supportive of us providing this service there. So, definitely it would be a hardship for the residences in that area if we weren't to be able to erect the tower. And so the second criteria is that it can be granted without substantial detriment to the public good. And again, it was engineered to the effect that I think, we have an engineer who could speak to it, but in the event of a tornado or hurricane, the houses would be gone and the tower would still be there. It's built to very high standards, and so to protect the community. And, also on the other side of the coin, any detriment is balanced out more so by the benefit of having the better quality service in the community. And then we can, these variances can be granted without nullifying or substantially derogating from the intent or purpose of the ordinance, which is to protect the community. And we, again, are building this with the understanding of where we are relative to the water tank and the community, and making sure that it's a safe structure. It will be designed to have a fault line so that it will collapse safely. We have some screening and trees in that neighborhood, so it isn't overpowering on these on the residences in the area there. We do have an engineer that can answer any questions regarding the site plan. We also submitted photo simulations. We also we have our radio frequency engineer that can talk about the coverage needs and how this tower satisfies the coverage that this tower will provide. So, if you have any questions and want any of that information, but we do hope that you will grant these variances, will allow us to put up the tower, again, recognized as being important by the town. And we've been working on the site for a number of years trying to find a location in that area And this has been determined to be the best site. It's also an advantage to have this on town property so that the revenue goes to the town. And we were glad that we could work with the town and then come up with a solution that we think works for everyone. So, anyone has any questions?
Just one point of order that I must remind the applicant of this evening is that we are a board member short, so in order for this variance to be granted, it has to be a unanimous vote from all 4 members. Questions of the applicant?
Can you talk a little bit about the existing T-Mobile equipment that's there? It looks like that's a much smaller setup than what's being proposed here, so I'm wondering why there's such a large difference there.
Can someone speak to that, Tom? I just want to add that there is a submission from AT&T in your packets that of the letter of support and their interest in also co-locating. So.
Hi, good evening. My name is Tom Johnson. I'm an engineer with Proterra Design Group. My firm is based in Hadley, Mass. As you mentioned, the existing water tank has T-Mobile antennas currently on top of it. The tank itself is about 60 feet tall, and the antennas that T-Mobile have are on pipe masts that are attached to the existing dome on top of the structure, and they extend up to about 82 feet. Right now, they are, I believe it's 1 antenna, we call it per sector. So generally, a cell site will have 3 sectors, and Verizon and T-Mobile at some point will install multiple antennas per sector. So they have a smaller installation now, but it has antennas, it has radio heads. I know that they also are looking to upgrade their equipment. So over time, as the technology changes, they change out the antennas and change out the equipment. But one of the real keys to siting and designing telecom facilities is that those antennas have to get above the top of the trees to propagate properly. And that's one of the things that's driving the need for the height here.
Well, before you have a seat, have you, has Verizon at least done their due diligence as far as distributed antenna systems in that general geographic area? Because you have started to use them throughout town. I don't know Verizon per se, but I have noticed several of these distributed antenna systems popping up from various carriers.
Yep, I'm the civil structural guy. Jay here is the RF engineer. I'll pass you over to him.
We could just have a minute by the addressing the question.
Good evening. My name is Kip DeVito. I'm an RF engineer, along with my colleague Jay Latorre from Verizon Wireless. Our offices are at 20 Alexander Drive in Wallingford, Connecticut. To the question about a distributed outdoor antenna system, essentially, we would not do that in a geographical location that we are trying to cover this large. There would be the amount of equipment necessary for something like that to cover the same geographical footprint of this single macro. You would need a lot of equipment all over telephone poles distributed throughout the entire of the town versus a single site that could be hidden within the trees behind a water tank where other carriers can use as well. And we'd be able to cover neighborhoods that don't have utility poles as well. So I think for all intents and purposes, a single macro hidden within the trees where other co-locators can use as well would be much better for the community than antennas and other equipment put on utility poles throughout this area of the town.
Is that strictly a financial consideration?
No, I mean, we invest in small cells in most all municipalities where needed. But in large areas like this, it is, I think it's a balance between a single site where you'll have equipment in one area that can hold multiple carriers, AT&T, T-Mobile, versus distributing equipment all over the town where you might have your system on a utility pole and only Verizon or whoever's on there can only use that pole.
How large an area, and that is something that I did not see in your packet, is how large an area are you folks looking to cover with this or improve?
So if you refer to the RF necessity case, on page 9 and 10, specifically 10, next one. Just go to the next one. Yep, right there. So this is the coverage footprint, if you will, of the 700 megahertz of just the proposed site. The green, yellow, and gray shading, if you will, is depicted in the legend above it. So you see that the green is what we consider reliable indoor coverage. The yellow is what we consider reliable in-vehicle coverage. And then gray is reliable outdoor service. And then if you go back one, also you'll see the existing coverage and the proposed coverage with sites, neighboring sites in the area. So these colors here, the service, what they do is they provide you an example of.
Can this map be zoomed? Because I cannot read any of these street names.
Do you want me to? It might be a little bit easier on this one.
Yeah, that's better.
Let me try and put this. So this is signal coverage, I guess strength, what you could say. So again, the green is going to be a better signal. This doesn't, like if you look at the previous picture with all the sites, it doesn't depict the resources available to you from other sites. This only is a coverage map, a footprint, if you will, of this site.
That pertains strictly to this antenna.
This particular one is strictly for this site.
Okay.
The page before you shows a coverage map of a proposed current and with the proposed site. If you want, I'll go, sorry. So you see in this area here, this map here on my left,
Yep.
This is without the proposed site. So this area is fed completely from sites outside of the area. With that being said, as you can imagine, they have their own customers in their own areas that they're also feeding. So the resources there are being spread thin. You go and add a site in this area with all the residents there, you're then offloading the other sites. So the other sites in neighboring areas are able to serve those customers a little bit. They have more resources for their customers, and then this site becomes a dominant RF source in this area. So everybody in this area, in this picture, benefits from this site. I think just this site will bring a better balance to our network in this area, and will provide better, reliable indoor, in-vehicle, and outdoor service to the residents in this area.
I have to say, I don't see a lot of substantial growth in green.
So if this right here is again, from another site further south. That being said, this site is overextending into this area. So there's a lot more customers that it's covering. Adding this site brings this area full of more reliable indoor service, while also we'll be able to bring this site that's overextending into this area in a little bit. But we can't do that unless there's another site here that is built. And I think that is a testament to T-Mobile being in this area and AT&T wanting to be in this area as well. Do you have any?
Two follow-up questions, Reed, if you're done
Sure.
on that end.
Yep.
So two questions I have. So with the tower not being camouflaged, is that just because you feel it's surrounded by the trees? Or is there a way to,
Being camouflaged in what way?
as far as having it look like a tree? Because I know it's going to stick out above the trees, but I know your setback
I
requirements are
don't
different.
know if I can speak to the choice of it being like what we would call a monopine. Maybe there's somebody else that can speak to that.
Maybe my next question you might be able to answer. I hate to have you sit
No, it's
down
okay.
and come
No,
back up with
all
your
good.
leg. My other question, which you may or may not be able to answer, is assuming this tower is erected, would T-Mobile jump onto your tower and come off the water tower, or is that not really something you can predict?
Don't really want to speculate on what another carrier would do. If they wanted to upgrade the site to more up-to-date equipment, and if they know the status of the tower or the tank, they might be looking to go on our tower to be able to. But again, that's speculation. I don't know T-Mobile's plans.
Okay, thank you.
If I might expand on that, just a couple of thoughts. The tower itself will be designed to structurally handle T-Mobile if at any point they wanted to switch on to this tower. It would be able to support their equipment as well. And then just the type of tower that's proposed here, we call it a lattice tower. It's a three-legged structure. It is set, it does have, the tank itself does have a tree cover around the perimeter. You'll see these structures around. There's usually two different types. There's a monopole, which is a singular shaft, cabling's up the middle of that shaft, and then a lattice structure, which is a three-legged type structure. This site, the reason we went with a lattice structure is there's shallow ledge. We did some geotech explorations, and the foundations for a lattice structure, each leg will sit on it's about an 8x8 concrete pier. And that pier, you're able to use rock anchors to support the structure. A monopole is generally a 25 by or 30-foot square mat that needs to be buried in the ground. So it has one singular pier in the middle. And that type of foundation doesn't suit well, one, based upon the space constraints here, and two, you can't really use rock anchors in that application. So we felt the lattice was the best type of structure for the constraints on this site.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any further comments or questions to Verizon before I open it to the rest of the folks? All right, is there anybody from the audience that, if you can just come up to the podium and state your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, Ted Hebert, 75 Pease Avenue, West Springfield. I'm sorry I'm here late for the meeting, but I'm here. When we moved here in West Springfield 36 years ago, there was a water tank in our backyard, not too far away. And we noticed it, but no big deal because we liked the area. So I have no objection to the water tank. Doesn't hurt anybody. I'm fine with it. If they put a tower up there, I grew up in East Springfield. We used to have what they call B-52s come over, 3 at a time. You couldn't hear anything, we got used to it. I have no objection to the tower. What I want to know, number one, what are the benefits and features for our community? I have Verizon. I live right next to that water tower, but I don't know if you have an antenna there, but my reception's horrible, and it drops all the time. So if they put a tower there and my phone works, I'm happy. And if other people have Verizon, we're going to be happy. So I'm for that. So that would be a benefit and feature at the same time. I don't know how much money, I'm late for the meeting. I don't know how much money this is going to bring into our community.
You're not late.
No? How much money is this going to bring to our community?
I believe the lease, what I read, was $21,000 a year to start, and there's escalation clauses after
I
that.
was just curious, $21,000 doesn't, oh, you pay taxes? Okay. I didn't know $21,000 isn't a lot of money to some people. I don't know how much money this is going to give them. If it's going to give them $250,000, 21 would be less than 10%. If some of the money is going to go back to our community, such as the senior center, instead of direct taxes, maybe a field that they can help sponsor, I'd like to see money come back into our community, not to my taxes. I could care less. You take 21,000 with our population, it's worth nothing. But if that cell tower would give us better communication, great. If it would bring money back to our community to the benefit of our citizens, I don't have a problem with it. But a good point was brought up. If they put a cell tower up, which I hope my phone works better, and other companies might say, why can't we have a cell tower? Once we set the footprint, we got to be careful because other companies actually have the same problem. So they would probably want to have a cell tower. The other thing is on a cell tower, I know anything's possible. Could they kind of put some branches on it with green stuff? Mr. Engineer? Can we get some branches? Well, yeah. Can we get some branches, some green stuff, look like a big tree, or it doesn't work?
For the lattice type structure, that's not an option.
But you have to use that structure, or that's the best benefit for the people?
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but for the people at home, we need to direct comments through the chair and then respond on the mic so that everybody can hear.
Okay.
Sorry. The people at home won't be able to hear what's being said to you.
Okay. Does she want to, it's up to you. Can she step up and say?
I can just tell you from my own personal experience, you can't put branches on a lattice style. It has to be a monopole.
Okay.
And they have site constraints.
Okay, so I don't know if they use a monopole with tree branches. I don't care. I'm not against it. My only concern is, will we get better reception for our citizens? That's number one. If you're going to tell me some money is going to come back, $21,000, if it turns out to be 1% of their gross, forget about it. I'd like to see at least 10 or 15% of what that gross is going to be to bring back to our community. Make it worth our while. And I'm a little concerned, if you open up the door to do this, as long as we're willing to have other companies put up a pole, then we have to buy it. Once we set a precedent, it wouldn't be fair to the other companies. So I'm not against it. I'm just have some issues and concerns, and I'm concerned about the benefits and features for our citizens. Fair enough? Thank you. And thank you.
Is there anybody else from?
I'd just
Go
like
ahead.
to respond.
Sure.
So thank you, Mr. Hebert. So the lease was negotiated, and as far as the RFP is concerned, that was submitted as part of the our submission, and that was selected and voted on and negotiated with the council. So, but in addition, there is a 25% sharing of any rent that comes in with co-locators. And again, we did design the tower so that it does support co-location, and that is in your zoning regulations that another carrier coming in needs to use existing facilities. So we expect, and companies don't really want to build towers, and we always look for existing structures first, which is why we looked at the water tank first, because we don't want to spend the money building a new tower. So in addition to the rent sharing, there is excise tax that we pay on the equipment, and so it ends up being a pretty nice payment to the municipality, which again, we like to work with, we prefer to do that so that the residents of the community are benefiting. I don't know so much that this is going to bring new customers to Verizon. We just build these enhancements to our service so that we service better our existing customers. So I don't know if anyone has any other thoughts about that, but I think it's just, we just want to provide good service, and otherwise, if we don't, over time, it degrades. There's too much capacity on one tower. This offloads some of it, as you heard. So anyway, it is a benefit to the community in many respects. So, thanks.
Is there anybody else that would like to address the board? Any questions remaining from board members? If not, I will make a motion to close the public hearing, and we will move to deliberation.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Give us a few minutes. Mike?
I mean, I guess my only concern is it's 26 feet higher, 24 feet higher than the existing one there. I get times change. I would like to see some sort of camouflage, but it doesn't sound like that's an option in this case. I think it is a good benefit for the town, as Mr. Hebert said. Better cell coverage, safety coverage as we're trying to build out that area. I don't see any of that as a negative. I typically go with who shows up to speak out, or the ones who are gonna be impacted, the neighbors. We have one neighbor here that, you know, looking at the map in Mr. Hebert's house, he probably has the direct sight line to that back corner, and no one else showed up to voice concern here. So ultimately, I don't have a huge issue with it. I wish you couldn't see it over the trees, but that's technology and you need to have it above there, so I don't really have a major issue.
Joe?
I have similar sentiments. I mean, I do think it's going to be a huge benefit for the public, for the surrounding.
Could you please turn on your microphone?
Yeah. It's right on you, huh? Yeah, I think the positives outweigh the negatives. I had the same concerns with the camouflage part of it. I am somewhat familiar with the site. I know where it's located. I've been up there many times. I think I think there are some topography challenges there. You know, I think it would fall into play of some of our requirements for variance. And like I said, or like Mike said, I mean, I think the negatives are very, very slim. And it's something that's needed, and it already exists there. I think if this was a raw site with nothing there, I would be looking at it a little differently versus a site that already has the towers on it, has a water tank. So I think the impact would be very low, if any, in a negative way.
Chris?
I would agree with the sentiment so far. I don't have any issues with this plan. I think it is definitely superior to any of the alternatives, which would be either, like they had alluded to, the placing of smaller equipment that would have to be larger in number and only be able to serve one carrier at a time. And alternatively, using a site that's already developed and already has a structure on it that is visible from a distance away. I think it kind of negates some of the minor aesthetic challenges from something like this, so I would definitely support it.
All right. Well, given that, I guess I will make a motion to approve the variance as requested. Is there a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you very much.
And last on our thing is signatory authorizations.
Yes, so we need you to vote on chairperson, vice chair, and secretary.
They did that
Oh, they did that?
last meeting.
Yeah, I was going to say, we did that last
Thought
month.
it seemed familiar.
I
Okay, so
think
I
we
just
need
need
to-
you all to sign it.
Okay.
Do we have to reassign secretary?
We're,
No,
Joe's the secretary.
yep, Joe,
You not in.
yep, had offered to do that, so.
He got promoted.
Turn it on next time.
Sorry,
My
my
bad,
memory
sorry.
is short, I guess. So yeah, I just need you all to sign it before you head out, and that's it.
okay, we can do that. All right, with that, I will adjourn the zoning board of appeals hearing for this evening. Thank you.